Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. It's good to see you this morning, or at least talk to you. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you sharing some of your time with me, and I hope that it'll be worthwhile after you've finished it. I do want to continue to talk about the Gospel of John and the good news that it brings to you and to me. Today, I'd like to look at chapter 12 and a couple of verses beginning with verse 9. Reads this way: When all the people heard of Jesus' arrival, they flocked to see him, and also to see Lazarus, the man Jesus had raised from the dead. Then the leading priests decided to kill Lazarus too, for it was because of him that many of the people had deserted them and believed in Jesus. This story follows the rising of Lazarus from the dead in the previous chapter. The time sequence is it's after that period some, and he's on his way really to Jerusalem to eat the Passover and actually experience the last days of his life on this earth. But as he comes into the town, Bethany, some strange things happen. It says the people, when they heard it, they flocked to see him. And they were also curious and wanted to see Lazarus, the guy that had been raised from the dead. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'd have been there, I'd have gone too. You know, people flocked to see Jesus wherever he went. They heard about him. They knew what he did. His reputation was solid. People wanted to listen to him. They wanted to get near him. Maybe they wanted a miracle from him. You know, even in Jesus' day, people came just for what they could get. And they also wanted to see proof that Lazarus really was alive. I mean, they knew he was dead. They had a funeral. They saw his body. They watched it put in a tomb. Maybe they weren't around when Jesus showed up and raised him from the dead, but they'd heard about it. And there was something about Jesus that just drew people to him. I don't know if it was his personality. I guess he must have had what we now call charisma. Maybe it was his soft-spoken ways. Maybe it was just the sincerity and the embodiment of goodness that came from him when people met him. I don't know. One day I look forward to meeting Jesus in the flesh or person to person or whatever that is like, and then I'll find out. But for now, I'm just stuck with the reports of others and know that it must have been wonderful to be in his presence. But everybody didn't think that way. You see, it goes on to say here that the leading priests, the religious leaders, decided to kill Lazarus. They'd already decided they got to get rid of Jesus. He was too much trouble. He was attacking what they said. He was confronting their worldview. He was confronting what they wanted the people to do. They wanted obedience and follow the law and do what they said. And Jesus wanted something very, very different. He wanted grace and goodness and forgiveness and acceptance. And so the priest said, look, we got to get rid of this guy. That's clear. Said it many, many times. And now they're saying we got to get rid of Lazarus too, because he's an affront to what we're saying, even though he's alive. And even if they didn't really believe he had died, lots of people did. And they decided we got to get rid of the evidence, so to speak. We got to clean up this mess. So they wanted to get rid of it. It says the reason they wanted to was because many of the people had deserted them and believed in Jesus. You know, life is full of influences that aren't good for you. You know that. Too much drinking, too much carousing around, too much gambling, too much taking advantage of people, too much thievery and sinisterness, too much anger, too much trying to get even. We all know people who are engaged in those activities. And it's sad to me because they think that's the way to live. And if you don't do what they do, they think you're the stupid one. Well, it was true in Jesus' time too. The Pharisees, the scribes, the religious leaders were jealous. They were jealous that the people listened to what Jesus said because it wasn't what they said. Now they had a choice. They could have said, gee, we've made a mistake. We should listen to this man and learn from him, but they didn't do that. It's so hard with your pride to let go and think that you were wrong. But I want to encourage you. I don't know where you are in the standards of life. I don't know whether those listening to me or strong followers of this man Jesus, or whether you are someone who mocks him. But I do want to suggest maybe he's right. Now, I would go on and say stronger than that and simply say Jesus is right. But that's me. I've got a lot of experience proving that. Now, my own family doesn't necessarily agree with me, and that bothers me, but I can't make their decisions either. But for those of you who think that there's another way, who don't want to give up your anger, who don't want to give up your attempts to get even, who don't want to let something that is destroying you go, let me offer a suggestion. Maybe there's another answer. You see, if you will let the Lord speak to your heart, you might find out that His way really works. I heard the other day, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth only winds up with someone else that can't see, doesn't solve anything. Maybe there's another answer to being angry, to being resentful, to the addiction that this or that has over you that really isn't making you a better person or giving you life in its fullness. When we allow Jesus to rule in our hearts, we find an amazing power to transform all the things we've messed up. So I hope today you'll think about that. If you're already walking with the Lord, praise God and walk more closely. If you're not, I invite you to try. You never know what God's going to do in your life if you just ask Him. Well, thanks so much for listening. If you have a need or a prayer concern, let us know. We'll do everything we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. God bless you. I'll talk to you again.